The Samma dynasty was a Rajput power on the Indian subcontinent that ruled in Sindh, Kutch, Saurastra and parts of Punjab and Balochistan from c. 1351 to c. 1524 AD, with the capital at Thatta in modern Pakistan, before being replaced by the Arghun dynasty. The Samma dynasty has left its mark in Sindh with magnificent structures including the necropolis of royalties in Thatta. Background: the Sindh is a fertile valley with a subtropical climate watered by the Indus River, the location of some of the oldest civilizations in the world, with settlements dating back to 7000 BCE. Always a prized possession, it has been controlled by many different empires, alternating with periods of independence. Before the Samma dynasty took control, the Sindh was ruled by the Sumra, first as nominal vassals of the Fatimid Caliphate of Cairo, later as vassals of the Delhi Sultanate, which reached its greatest extent under Muhammad bin Tughlaq. The Sammas, a Rajput tribe, gained control of Thatta in the southern Sindh from the Sumras around 1335, and expanded the territory northward to Bukhara and beyond. In 1361–62, Firoz Shah Tughlaq of Delhi Sultanate invaded Sindh and again brought Sammas under his suzerainty. Throughout the period of the Samma dynasty, Turkic groups were pushing down from the northwest, including those led by Timur, who sacked Delhi in 1398. Sindh remained under control of Khizr Khan, founder of Sayyid dynasty, who was an appointed governor of Sindh and Multan provinces by Timur on his behalf. Sammas remained under Sayyid dynasty till 1451. Later Sammas were finally defeated by the Arghun dynasty, who had been displaced from Kandahar in Afghanistan by Babur in 1519–1520 AD. Beginnings. Information about the early years of the Samma dynasty is very sketchy. We know from Ibn Battuta that in 1333 AD the Sammas were in rebellion, led by the Rajput founder of the dynasty, Jamaat. The Sammas overthrew the Sumras soon after 1335 AD, and the last Sumra ruler took shelter with the governor of Gujarat, under the protection of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, the Sultan of Delhi. Muhammad bin Tughlaq made an expedition against Sindh in 1351 AD and died at Sonda, possibly in an attempt to restore the Sumras. With this, the Sammas became independent. The next Sultan, Firoz Shah Tughlaq, attacked Sindh in 1365 and 1367, unsuccessfully, but with reinforcements from Delhi he later obtained Ban Binyo's surrender. The Samma dynasty overtook the Sumra dynasty and ruled Sindh during 1365 to 1521. Around that time, the Sindhi Swaranka community returned from Kutch to the hometowns in Sindh, and some settled empty land on the banks of Sindhu River near Dadu, Sindh. By the end of year 1500 AD, nearly the entire Sindhi Swaranka community had returned to Sindh. This period marks the beginning of Sufistic thought and teachings in Sindh. For a period the Sammas were therefore subject to Delhi again. Later, as the Sultanate of Delhi collapsed, they became fully independent. During most of period of Samma rule, the Sindh was politically and economically tied to the Gujarat Sultanate, with occasional periods of friction. Coins struck by the Samma dynasty show the titles Sultan and Shah, as well as Jam. The Jadeja rulers of western Gujarat, also part of Samma tribe and directly descended from Jamuna, the first Samma Sultan of Sindh. Even the Tudor Samma Rajputs of Gujarat are also part of Samma tribe, who are still Hindu, and distributed in Junagadh district and Bhal region of Gujarat. History. The Samma dynasty took the title Jam, the equivalent of king or sultan, because they claimed to be descended from Jamshid. This is almost certainly fictitious. The main sources of information on the Samma dynasty are Nizamuddin, Abu el-Fazl, Saurastra and Mir Mazam, all lacking in detail, and with conflicting information. A plausible reconstruction of the chronology is given in the History of Delhi Sultanate by M. H. Said, at right. Family trees. Jamuna was the founder of Samma dynasty mentioned by Ibn Battuta, the famous traveller from North Africa. Jamuna, the Samma chief, taking advantage of the strained relation between the Sumra and the Sultanate of Delhi, defeated the last Sumra ruler, son of Dodo, and established Samma rule. Jam Salahuddin bin Jam Tamarchi was the successor of his father Jam Tamarchi. He put down revolts in some parts of the country by sending forces in those directions and punished the ringleaders. Some of these unruly bands fled to Kutch, to which place Jam Salahuddin pursued them, and in every engagement that took place he defeated them and ultimately subjugated them. After a reign of 11 years and some months, he departed from this world. Jam Ali Shah bin Jam Tamarchi was a wise man and a brave soldier. He ruled the country very discreetly, and in his time the people were all at ease in the mines. This prince is said to have been very fond of going about on moonlight nights. Tamarchi's other sons Sikandar and Khan, and Thatta Khan son of Sikandar, who had brought ruin on the last Jam, were now conspiring against Jam al-Shah. They were therefore looking for an opportunity to fall upon him while he was out enjoying the moonlight as usual. They spent the time in the forests in the vicinity of the town. One Friday night, on the 13th of the lunar month, they took a band of cutthroats with them, and with naked swords attacked Jam al-Shah, who had come out in a boat to enjoy the moonlight on the quiet surface of the river and was returning home. They killed him, and red-handed they ran to the city, where the people had no help for it but to place one of them, Karen, on the vacant throne. The reign of Jam al-Shah lasted for 7 years. Jam Thatta Khan bin Jam Sikandar Jam Karan was succeeded by his nephew Jam Thatta Khan bin Sikandar. He ruled quietly for some time and gave satisfaction to the people in general. About this time, Mirza Pir Muhammad, one of Amir Timur's grandsons, came to Multan and conquered that town and UCH. As he made a long stay there, most of the horses with him died of a disease, and his horsemen were obliged to move about as foot soldiers. When Amir Timur heard of this, he sent 30,000 horses from his own stables to his grandson to enable him to extend his conquests. Pir Muhammad, being thus equipped, attacked those of the Zamindars who had threatened to do him harm and destroyed the household property. He then sent a messenger to Bakka calling the chief men of the place to come and pay respects to him. But these men, fearing his vengeance, left the place in a body and went to Jaisalmer. Only one solitary person, Sayyid Abafiz, one of the pious Sayyids of the place, went to visit the Mirza. He interceded for his town people in the name of his great-grandfather, the Prophet, and the Mirza accepted his intercession. Mirza Pir Muhammad soon went to Delhi, which place he took in, where he was crowned as king. Multan remained in the hands of Langurs, and Sindh in those of the Samma rulers as before. Jam Taglik was fond of hunting and left his brothers to administer the affairs of state at Sawan and Bakka. In his reign Sambalik raised the standard of revolt in the outskirts of Bakka, but Jam Taglik marched in the direction and punished the ringleaders and appointed an outpost in each pargana to prevent any future rebellion of the kind. He died after a reign of 28 years. Jam Sikandar bin Jam Taglik was a minor when he succeeded his father to the throne. The governors of Sawan and Bakka shook off the yoke and prepared to take offensive steps. Jam Sikandar was obliged to march out from Thatta to Bakka. When he came as far as Nasipur, a man by name Mubarak, who during the last Jam's reign had made himself celebrated for acts of bravery, proclaimed himself king under the name of Jam Mubarak. But as the people were not in league with him, he was driven away within 3 days. An information sent to Jam Sikandar, who made peace with his opponents and hastened to Thatta. After a year and a half, he died. Jam Nizamuddin I. After Jam Salahuddin's death, the nobles of the state put his son Jam Nizamuddin I bin Jam Salahuddin on the throne. Jam Nizamuddin ruled for only a few months. His first act of kindness was the release of his cousins Sikandar Khan and Bahauddin and Amar, who had been placed in captivity by the advice of the ministers. He appointed every one of them as an officer to discharge administrative duties in different places, while he himself remained in the capital, superintending the work done by them and other officials in different quarters of the country. Before long, however, his cousins very ungratefully made a conspiracy among themselves and stealthily coming to the capital attempted to seize him. But Jam Salahuddin, learning their intention in time, left the place at the dead of night with a handful of men and made his escape to Gujarat. In the morning, men were sent after him, but before any information could be brought about him, the people summoned Alisha, son of Jam Tamachi, who was living in obscurity, and raised him to the throne. Meanwhile, Jam Nizamuddin also died in his flight, and his cousins too, being disappointed in everything, live roving lives. Jam Sunja, on Raina's death, Sunja Sadr al-Din became the Jam of Sindh. He is said to have been a very handsome person, and on that account was constantly attended by a large number of persons, who took pleasure in remaining in his company. It is believed that before his coming to the throne, a pious fakir had been very fond of him, that one day Sunja informed him that he had a very strong desire to become the king of Thatta, though it should be for not more than 8 days, and that the fakir had given him his blessings, telling him that he would be the king of the place for 8 years. Jam Sunja ruled the country very wisely. Under no ruler before this had the people of Sindh enjoyed such ease of mind. He was very fond of the company of the learned and the pious. Every Friday he used to distribute charities and had fixed periodical allowances for those who deserved the same. He increased the pay of responsible officers. One Qazi Maruf, who had been appointed by the late rulers to be the Qazi of Bakka, was in the habit of receiving bribes from the plaintiffs as well as from the defendants. When this fact came to the notice of Jam Sunja, he sent for the Qazi and asked him about it. The Qazi admitted the whole thing. Yes, said he, I did demand something from the plaintiffs as well as the defendants, and I am anxious to get something from the witnesses too. But before the case closes, they go away, and I am disappointed in that. Quote. Jam Sunja could not help laughing at this. The Qazi continued, I work in the court for the whole day and my wife and children die of hunger at home, because I get very little pay. Quote. Jam Sunja increased his pay and issued general orders for the increase of every government post of importance. Jam Nizamuddin II was the most famous sultan of the Samma Jamaat dynasty, which ruled in Sindh and parts of Punjab and Balochistan from 1351 to 1551 CE. He was known by the nickname of Jam Indore. His capital was at Thatta in modern Pakistan. The Samma Sultanate reached the height of its power during the reign of Nizamuddin II, who is still recalled as a hero, and his rule as a golden age. Shortly after his accession, he went with a large force to Bukhara, where he spent about a year, during which time he extirpated the freebooters and robbers who annoyed the people in that part of the country. After that, for a period of 48 years he reigned at Thatta with absolute power. In the last part of Jamnindo's reign, after 1490 CE, a Mughal army under Shah Beg Arghun came from Kandahar and fell upon many villages of Chanduha and Sidiju, invading the town of Agri Oadaka, Sibi Sindacha and Kotmakian. Jamnindo sent a large army under his Vizier Dayu Khan, which, arriving at the village known by the name of Duruikurib, also known as Julogir Halukania Sibi, defeated the Mughals in a pitched battle. Shah Beg Arghun's brother Abu Muhammad Mirza was killed in the battle, and the Mughals fled back to Kandahar, never to return during the reign of Nizamuddin. Nizamuddin's death was followed by a war of succession between the cousins Feroz and Salafuddin. Ferozuddin Feroz bin Nisam was the last ruler of the Samma dynasty of Sindh. Feroz succeeded his father Nizamuddin at a minor age. Feroz was a young man, and as from the commencement the management of the state affairs was in the hands of his guardian, he spent his time in his harem and seldom went out. But he was fearful of his ministers. As a precautionary measure he enlisted in his service Kebik Arghun and a large number of men belonging to the tribes of Mughals, who had during his reign left Shah Beg Arghun and came to Thatta. Feroz gave them the quarter of the town, called Mughalwara, to live in. He secretly flattered himself for his policy in securing the services of intrepid men to check Dayu Khan, but he never for a minute imagined what ruin these very men were destined to bring on him. For it was through some of these men that Shah Beg Arghun was induced to invade and conquer Sindh in 926 at the Battle of Fatehpur, which resulted in the displacement of the Samma dynasty of rulers by that of Arghun. Legacy. The rise of Thatta as an important commercial and cultural center was directly related to Jamnindo's patronage and policies. At the time the Portuguese took control of the trading center of Hormuz in 1514 CE. Trade from the Sindh accounted for nearly 10% of the customs revenue, and they described Thatta as one of the richest cities in the world. Thatta's prosperity was based partly on its own high-quality cotton and silk textile industry, partly on export of goods from further inland in the Punjab and northern India. However, the trade declined when the Mughals took over. Later, due to silting of the main Indus Channel, Thatta no longer functioned as a port. The Samma civilization contributed significantly to the evolution of the Indo-Islamic architectural style. Thatta is famous for its necropolis, which covers 10 square km on the Makli Hill. It assumed its quasi-sacred character during Jamnindo's rule. Every year thousands perform pilgrimage to this site to commemorate the saints buried here. The graves testify to a long period when Thatta was a thriving center of trade, religion and scholarly pursuits. Kalenkot Fort was built probably in 14th century along with Thatta. Some deserves notice from the attempt which has been made to establish it as the celebrated Minagara of the ancient geographers. It was the capital of the Jams of the Samma dynasty, and, according to the Turfatu el-Kiram, it was founded by Jampania * under the Makli Hill, about 3 miles northwest of Thatta. Subsequently, the fort of Tuflikabad was built by Jamtafura Tuflik on the site of the older Kalakot, about 2 miles south of Thatta, but that, as well as its predecessor, was left unfinished by its founder. By a strange vicissitude, the name of Tuflikabad is now comparatively forgotten, and that of Kalakot, erroneously called Kalankot, though for a time superseded, has restored the just claims of Raja Kala, and still attracts the attention of the traveller. Lt. Burton calls it Kaliankot. I fear to differ from Seguda local authority, but believe Kalakot to be more strictly correct. The ruins of Samwiya, or Samanagar, the city of the Sammas, are to be traced near Thatta, and, under the wrong and deceptive spelling of Saminagar, have induced Todd, Surrey, Burns, and many who have too readily followed them, including even Ritter, who considers the question settled incontestably, to recognize in that name the more ancient and more famous Minagara. The easy, but totally unwarrantable, elision of the first and only important syllable has led to this fanciful identification. Later history. The state of Lasbela was founded in 1742 by Ali Khan I. His descendants ruled Lasbela until 1955, when the state became part of West Pakistan, for a period of 3 years between the 3rd of October 1952 and the 14th of October 1955. Lasbela was part of the Balochistan States Union but retained internal autonomy. In 1955, Lasbela was incorporated into the new province of West Pakistan and became part of Kalat Division. In 1962, the area of Lasbela was detached from Kalat Division and merged with the former Federal Capital Territory to form the division of Karachi Bela. When the provincial system was changed in 1970, Lasbela became part of the new province of Balochistan. After the demise of the Samma dynasty, the Nawab migrated along with his brothers and tribal members, leaving the once thriving land of Nagasama to parts of India and settled in Gujarat. A vast village in Gujarat is now settled by the descendants of the 4 tribal leaders who were also blood brothers. One of the brothers is recorded to have migrated back to Sindh and settled the lands on the outskirts of Thatta known as Sikart, famous for its rose farms. The village in Gujarat, known also Nagasama, consists of many thousands of acres of cultivatable and non-cultivatable land. An accurate size is not known.